Hey guys, welcome to Unit 10, Section 2. Today we're talking about solids, specifically prisms, and we're going to be looking at the surface area and volume of prisms. So the surface area is the total area on the outside of the figure. It's the amount of material it takes to make a hollow object. So everything on the very outside of the three-dimensional figure. The methods of calculating the surface area is you can find the sum of the areas of the faces, so you could find each individual face and then add them all together, or you can use a formula. And number 2 is definitely the one I recommend. Now recall that a prism, the definition of it is two congruent and parallel sides called bases. So if you look at these three images we have here, each prism is named after its base. So we have triangular prism, rectangular prism, pentagonal prism, and so forth. So the first example would be a pentagonal prism because the bases are the pentagons. The next one would be a hexagonal prism because we have a hexagon. These are the bases here. I probably should have showed that on this one. So this is one base, and then the bottom base is down here. And then the last one is a triangular prism. That one's pretty easy to see. Now the formula for calculating it all at one time for a prism is 2 times the base area. We should be able to find the base area of pretty much any prism, and then plus the perimeter of the base times the height. So these are all different pieces. Sometimes we're going to have to solve for individual pieces. Sometimes it's just going to be given to us. But it's 2 times the base area plus base perimeter times height. So let's try this out. This is a rectangular prism we have here. Now the base area, we are going to think of, I'll do it in a different color so you can kind of see this here. This top part of the rectangular prism, that's one of the bases. Then the other base is this one down here. Now remember that to find the area of just a rectangle, if we're talking two-dimensional, it's base times height. So right underneath that, I'm going to write base times height. Now the base and the height, or excuse me, I should do length and width. That's going to get a little confusing with the fact that we have a height here. So the length and the width is 9 and 7. All right, length, width right there. So if we take 9 times 7, we get 63. So that is the area of just the base. And then the reason we do it times 2 is because the area of each base is going to be the same. So the rectangle on the top is the same as the one on the bottom. So surface area is going to be 2 times 63 plus, we don't know the perimeter yet, but we do know the height. The height is 3 inches. So we just need to figure out the perimeter of one of the bases and we're good to go. So now remember, a rectangle, opposite sides are congruent. So this side over here would be 9 and this side over here would be 7. So it's going to be 9 plus 9 plus 7 plus 7. 18 plus 14 is 32. So the perimeter of one of the bases is 32. So now when we type this in our calculator, we can do this all in one step, which is pretty nice. Let me split screen here. Oop, not what I meant to do. Okay, so then we have 2 times 63 plus 32 times 3. And we get 222, and that would be inches squared. Because remember, we're still talking about area, even though it's surface area. So we're going to get 222 inches squared out of that. All right, on to the next one. So here's surface area of a different prism. Now we're looking at a triangular prism. The formula here, still the same thing, 2 times base area plus base perimeter times height. The tricky part is, one, make sure that you're identifying the correct base. Here, it's got to be the triangles, so let me just outline those. Because those are the parallel pieces, those are the congruent shapes, those are the bases. When you're thinking of a triangle, think about the area first, because area of a triangle is different than a rectangle. It would be 1/2 base times height. So in this case, capital B, base area, is going to be 1/2 times 12 times 16. We are looking at the height of the base. That's going to be different than the height of the actual triangular prism. So that's where it can be a little confusing. Okay, if we do this, we are going to end up getting 96 centimeters. Then the base perimeter, that's something else that we have to think about. Again, it's a triangle. We know a lot about a triangle. And the side that we're missing is this hypotenuse right here for the base. So since it's the hypotenuse, we're going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Use the Pythagorean theorem. 12 squared plus 16 squared equals, we'll just do x squared, 144 plus, I'm blanking here on what this is. Let me pull this up. I think it's 256, but yeah. Okay, so 256 equals x squared. So that's going to add up to 400. And then we take the square root of both of those. We get x equals 20. All right, so now that we know that, we can figure out the perimeter. So the perimeter is going to just be 12 plus 16 plus 20. Which is going to be 48 centimeters. So now we have everything that we need. Base is just going, or excuse me, surface area is going to be 2 times the base, we already figured out was 96, plus the perimeter is 48, and now the height of the actual triangular prism is 10. It's the value that we didn't use. It's going to be the distance between our bases is 10. So make sure that you're careful when identifying that part. All right, so 2 times 96 plus 48 times 10, we get 672. And that would be centimeters squared. Now those aren't too bad. Surface area is usually pretty straightforward. It's just finding the individual pieces that we've already practiced in the previous units. So just kind of got to rely on some of that prior knowledge. Now volume can actually be even easier for a lot of these. Remember that the volume is the total space taken up by a 3D figure. It's the amount that would fill inside of an object. So the hollow outside, the covering of your three-dimensional object, that's surface area, but the inner space is the volume. And the method of calculating volume is to just use the formula. That's going to be our only way of doing it. Now the volume of a prism is pretty easy. It's base area times height. In this case, base area is length times width. So the formula for a prism, a rectangular prism, is just length times width times height. And you've probably seen that formula already. So for this one, we can just do volume equals, well, the base area would be 9 times 7. We did that earlier. And then the height is 3. So we just have to put this all into our calculator. Could do this all in one step. 9 times 7 times 3. And we get 189. Now this, though, remember, since we're talking about volume, it's inches cubed because we're talking three-dimensionally here. So this is the space inside. It has length, width, and height. Volume, again, with this next one, triangular prism. So the base area would be 1/2 base times height. So we can just fill that in. And then the height in this case would be 10. So you have to be careful with the triangular prism because you use two different heights. So the volume is going to be 1/2. The base is 16 times 12. And then we have to take that times the height of the whole thing, which is 10. But again, we can type this in our calculator all in one step, which makes it pretty nice. We get 960 centimeters cubed. Now these examples are pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy about them. The tough examples are the ones where you have like a hexagonal base or a pentagonal base, because with those you have to calculate the area of a regular polygon, and those can be kind of tricky. So keep that in mind.